It's mainly for
Okay, welcome. Everybody ready to go here? I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. The first item we have is assignment for request for council action. We have several for the Finance Committee, 2576 budget amendments, 2577 increase expenditures to Rocco Masonry Service Department, 2578 cooperative purchase 2025 Ford cab and chassis for the Service Department, 2579 professional services agreement T&M Economic Development, 2580 Second Amendment to Management Agreement Medina Municipal Airport, 2581 grant application USA Water Polo Grant MCRC, 2582 grant application T-Mobile Hometown Grant Parks, 2583 increase expenditure to Holtz Industry Service Department, 2584 increase expenditure to Environmental Equipment Sales Service Department, 2585 bids for the 2025 Equipment and General Pavement Services Service Department, 2586 bids for job number 1151 US 42 resurfacing and pedestrian safety improvements, 2587 preliminary legislation ODOT urban paving State Route 3 and State Route 57, 2588 Medina Municipal Court renovation GMP number 3 from Rulin, 2589 amend code stormwater ordinances, 2590 grant application community project funding State Road Phase 2, 2591 grant application community project funding Medina Municipal Airport, and 2592 amend salaries and benefits 3104B extend employee training to a maximum of 12 weeks. The first item we have is 24202. This is the elected official salary for 2026 through 2029. And I think you had an ad hoc committee put together with Mr. Rose, DeSalvo, and Hare. I don't know who wants to take it. Mr. Rose?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met back in March to discuss this. I was figuring to be like a 20-minute meeting. It was over an hour and a half. Good discussion, a lot of good points brought out. Biggest discussion was for the council itself. The state pension system has some bottom limits, and that was my recommendation as far as getting the amount of salary that you must use to pay in to get a minimum pension at the end of your service after you meet other requirements. And then there's also, if there's health care involved, that's the floor is $1,000 a month. And there was a lot of discussion around that. The proposal by the members of the committee were $1,000 per month to meet that health care bottom. And it was passed by a vote of 2-1. I dissented on that. Council President, we unanimously agreed at $1,282 per month, or $15,384, mainly because Council President does more than any of the other ones. And then the mayor position, I know for a long time there had been a discrepancy, between the way the mayor was paid and the finance director was paid, the two highest paid elected officials in town. This proposal here corrects that, in that the mayor will now be making a higher salary than the finance director, because he's the CEO of the company, and that's the way we looked at it. Mr. DeSalvo and I are here to answer any questions that you may have. Mr. Simmons was there, as was Keith, at the meeting as well.
I felt that those increases were too steep. I agree with the 2.5% increase that you had in there, but I wasn't not supportive of the leap between 2025 and 2026. There's an increase of like $8,000 and $12,000 between those 2 years to get us to this position that we see in the packet. And I just think that's too much.
And from your discussions, I apologize, I had another event, but what are other communities, from your discussions, I assume you looked at other communities specifically in Medina County, what are they like?
These salaries that we came to are roughly the midpoint, give or take a little bit.
They're definitely not the
Yeah,
highest.
definitely not the highest, definitely not the lowest, but we're all right in the middle. In par with the population of the city of Medina.
And when you say we're in par based upon our,
Population.
Our population and I guess the makeup of, I guess everybody has 7 members of council, and I think they're made up, Wadsworth and Brunswick are very similar to us, except for, I think Brunswick's a city manager form of government.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
And some of the finance duties are a little bit shifted, different communities, Wadsworth, for example. So it's hard to get apples to apples, but we are right about in the middle either way.
And I know we talked about a little bit, not only looking at the salaries of the council, finance director, and the mayor, but at some point revisiting some of the salaries for the other employees and department heads for the city based upon the surrounding communities, and I think that's a little bit more involved. But again, for some reason, we've always either trailed or I don't think we've ever been ahead of the curve. Which, I don't think anybody here wants to do. I think there's always a hesitancy to raise pay I felt that ever since I've been in council, that we've always discussed it, that there's always been a hesitancy, and I get it. I guess if you raise the pay amongst the council members and the mayor and finance position, that also provides opportunities for others who seeking the office that, may change their mind. Because if I remember correctly, a long time ago, council paid $2,400 a year. And that may have been some of the reason maybe there wasn't a lot of people actively want to get involved, because you could probably make that up in a couple months working what you have to do. So, but I think all of us here, nobody really does it for the money. I think they want to do it for the for the public service part of it. I think it works well, but I appreciate all the work you guys have done on coming up with these numbers, but I don't know what all the council feels that they would like to do.
Well,
Natalie?
one of the reasons that Keith pointed out for having the council members get that salary of $1,000 a month has to do with getting their medical benefits after X amount of years. Now, so I found information, and prior to, if you started working prior to 2015, you would be able to get 100% of your vested interest for medical after 5 years. Okay, so that has changed since 2015. Beginning to July 1st, 2015, 0 to 5 years of participation, you get 0, you get nothing. Your 6th year, you get 10%, and so on. It goes up 10% every year until 15 years, and then you'd be 100% vested. So I do think that gives a little bit of credence to why we might want to look at doing that, because for some people that might, be like, okay, I'm going to give up this and I'm going to give up this. I want to help have my community. I want to help my city. And this is going to make it a little bit easier for me to do that. That was one of the big things, was for what, like Keith pointed out, for the medical, correct?
Right, and it's important distinction here. If you're paid below the pension level, you earn proportional credit. For the medical on the pension, if you make less than the threshold, you earn nothing. That's just how OPERS works. So anybody who earns, the pension threshold is the current 9180 is above it, but they are planning on, so I gave those as estimates in my request because I can't guarantee what OPERS is going to do, but they're planning on going up 1.75 a year, and I think it was 2028 that will exceed the 9180. That's less of a big deal, because if you're below that pension threshold, you'll still earn proportional credit. The medical credit, like I said, if you don't earn the $1,000 a month, you get nothing towards medical at all. And that's a change they made a few years ago because they had issues.
Anybody have any other, Denny, you got anything on it?
Well, and I think it's important to know that for us voting here, we are not going to, even if we vote in this increase, we are not going to see that increase. At least, my term is up in 2027. Correct me if I'm wrong, unless I run again, which I'm not. Unless I run again, if I voted for the increase, I wouldn't see that till after 2027, is that correct?
Yeah, the state requires there has to be an intervening election. So you can't raise, you don't have the authority to change the pay of an existing elected official.
Right. So
You don't pay basically, I think the theory is you don't pay a person, you pay a position.
Right.
Whoever wins that position gets that pay.
Right. So I think it's important for the public to know, to increase these salaries, unless members are going to run again at the end of their term, whenever that may be, they would not see that increase unless they are reelected.
Jim?
The only thing, I do see a value in the $1,000 minimum for OPERS and the medical, as Natalie pointed out, and I think we've always tried to at least go into this with the spirit of trying to keep it at the minimum amount.
Yep. Paul?
I was just going to say, you know, you're, as Natalie pointed out, 15 years for a part-time job to get minimum medical benefits. That means that you had a job someplace else, most likely. So there's a really good chance that you're going to have at least your supplemental for your Medicare taken care of through your employer. That's why I honestly don't, from spending my entire career in the private sector and having a portion of my supplemental taken care of by my former employer prior to my retirement, I think all of us should look at it that way and not make this a job that somebody's relying on their livelihood for.
Right.
Okay, and that's why I'm for staying at, I forget the exact numbers, but whatever the state had put out for the minimums to get the pension, because our time here is worth something additional. But that's, you know, I leave here after my term is up, I'm going to get $200 a month for 16 years. You know, go to McDonald's, it's gone. Okay, so it's a little something, you know, that's all.
I know we have a little bit of time yet to approve this, and I guess I just want to throw out an idea. I know we had this together, the committee came up with determination, you know, maybe we should stick it on the website a little bit, see if we can get any public comment. I feel it's more important to get it out there, because if we just pass it, people are going to say, well, you guys, we didn't even know about it. So I don't know, Kathy, if it's possible to put it on the website a little bit. I mean, I think we have until, we got to do it before the break, of course.
It has to be, it has to take effect before the filing deadline for the positions.
Right.
And the way they recommended it, because in the past, we've done some council increases where you had council members making 2 different rates, which is always kind of goofy because you're doing the same job. So they had it set up that all council goes up at the same time, January 1st of 2028. But that still has to be in effect before the filing deadline in 2025, because for the people who are up in 25, they won't be up for election again before 2028.
So we have to do it by the second meeting of June.
Right.
So I think we could get a little bit of time, try to see if we can get any public input, you know, on the website or.
I would like to make sure, though, that we include, you know, the other information that we gathered
Sure. that would be
and
great.
reasoning, and so that they can understand and see.
And they could ask questions or
Yep.
something, because I know not everybody, you know, tunes into the meetings every week, and so they maybe not know everything that's going on, but that at least give us maybe, you know, a couple weeks or so for the information to get out there, and people can review it and make a determination.
Good idea.
Is that, Kathy, you all right with that? I know it's a little bit more work,
Silence.
but
Get Trace on that, will you?
I think it'll be helpful. I think it would be helpful just to get a little bit more feedback.
and-
I mean, we'll probably get on both sides, maybe not, but we should definitely see what people think about that.
And John, you had asked about in the county. I provided that on the original request back in September. I provided Brunswick and Wadsworth, as well as Strongsville and Worcester for council member, council president, mayor, and finance
I'm sure
director,
they
all 4 of
haven't
those.
changed, I would imagine. That's,
And just so you know, too, there was, in the calculations that I looked at and everything, there were city taxes that were same as ours, 1.25%.
okay.
So it's not like they're getting 2.5% of city income tax, and therefore these are justified or
Well,
whatever,
and I
but,
guess, I mean, if the pay's not commensurate with the position, or the individual serving in the position is not viewed as deserving that pay, they would be voted out. I
Right.
guess at the next election, that's usually how that would work, I would imagine, so. Okay, is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, so let's move on. The next one we have, and we'll hold that until, bring it back to vote on it, and probably not the next meeting, the meeting after. That'll give us 4 weeks to see if we get any input.
John, the one thing I was going to say, Jared, I don't know if you know this, but I know on the school website, you can put a notice that pops up as soon as you go to the website, where we could maybe do that on this and say, are you interested in taking the council survey?
Yeah, I know we can pop it up on our emergency alerts, and then we can also pop it up in the news feature, so I'll find a way to get that done. yeah.
Okay, because that gets people attention,
good.
so.
Good, that's good. Okay, now we move on to 2569, which is the interurban building relocation and use. This, if you recall, the hotel was being constructed, the interurban building had to be moved, and it's currently on a flatbed trailer parked in the parking lot in one piece, which is good. And so it has been moved, but now we have to make a determination of where would hopefully the final resting place of the interurban building be. Now, there's been a few discussions on location and what to do with it, and I don't know, who's doing this? Is it Andrew, Patrick, who? Andrew. If you want to talk about that, I know that there's a couple options, and there's benefits to each option, and there's detriments to each option. So I think we just need to understand what the options are and what the benefits and detriments are.
Thank you. Basically, we have 2 proposals for, I guess, the final location of the interurban building. The first is proposed by Jason Stevenson, the developer of the Legacy Hotel, and you have in your packet his proposal. Basically, they would return it to its original, or its most recent position in the northeast corner of the Feckley lot. They would assume repairs and maintenance responsibilities, security responsibilities, have information regarding the station in the hotel, and they note they do not anticipate utilizing the station for valet services or any other primary operations. So the second proposal is by the Medina County Historical Society. Their proposal is to move the interurban building to their McDowell Phillips House Museum temporarily in the rear parking lot, and then a final location to be determined either on that site or in the area of Prospect, Blake, and Medina Street. And their proposal is also supported by the Community Design Committee. So we have both these organizations here. They might have more information than I do to
Well, let me
address
ask you another question. And not to throw Jansen under the bus, but is there another third option that there's a possibility, or was I mistaken of where the location would be?
There's potentially a location we could look at just south of where it sits right now. There's an adjacent property where there's a green space right now. There's a bump out that's city-owned property in the Feckley parking lot. And there's a fence that runs the property line. I haven't had a chance to measure it out, but it's about the same size as the area the interurban located.
And that's next to
previously.
where the old yellow house used to be, next to the
Correct.
apartment building on the corner.
Yeah.
So it's right down there.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, I guess there's different options. I mean, there's one a little further away from the hotel, so, but I think we could have 3 different options, from my understanding. So, I mean, that's kind of it kind of opens up the door a little bit. I mean, the goal is, what are we trying to look to achieve with it? What's the goal of the interurban building? What do we want to have, what do we want to have it be? So everybody has a different idea in that, so that's what we have to discuss and think about, because you have to make a determination, is whatever we do with it, we have to achieve the goal probably for the residents of the city. What would be best for them, in the long run, to have that? So I don't know if anybody on council first has any thoughts on that, or any, knowing now that, there's generally the area, let's call it downtown, or the area outside of town. Right. So that's the 2 options, Dave?
I'll go first. I think both options, have merit. I'm glad to hear in your proposal that it would not be used for a valet station, I mean, I would definitely would vote against that just for that alone, because that was the rumors that it was going to be used as a possible valet station. But my main, not concerns, is support would be to, since it is a historical building, and most recently, we've seen the War Bond building be moved to the McDowell Phillips location, and they did a great job in not only moving it, but maintaining it and giving it a good home. So I probably would, right now, would support having the building moved to the Historical Society, the CDC, because they've got history of not only maintaining things that are old, but the moving the building and maintaining it and being, I would say, a more secure location where there wouldn't be a lot of, potentially a lot of traffic that could put the building in danger at the hotel location. Although I think, your pictures there, it looks great, but I just think there's potential for some things to happen to it that we don't want to see happen. So just with the Historical Society, CDC's history, right now I would be in favor of moving it to that location on Blake and Prospect there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, when I think about the interurban station on South Court next to the hotel, it really does get squeezed in there now with the hotel coming way to the east right up against it, with that vault, utility vault on the south coming right up against it. It's got to have access to the top of the vault. That's got to be open. The driveway and the sidewalk is now coming, what was the front yard, it was green space. Now the driveway and the sidewalk is coming right there. It is just such a pinch point, all right there at that interurban station. It's going to be confusing enough with pedestrians and drivers and things to not add an attraction, historical artifact right there at that spot. So I think that the best place would be the 205 South Prospect, the McDowell Phillips house. As Denny alluded, the War Bond building has been moved there, and it's been amazing how that War Bond building has really taken on a life of its own.
Looks like it's always been there.
Yeah, everybody talks about driving down past the highway, past the hospital, and they knew that the building was there, but so many people didn't know what it was. And so now that it's at the museum, it has a whole nother life, and it's spoken to, and its history is revealed, and it's made quite an impact. So I would support the Historical Society.
I like the fact that it is visible from the square, with everything that's going on with the hotel. But I agree with Denny and Chet that the Historical Society is probably the best place for that to reside. I mean, it's a museum, the museum's there, the Historical Society, War Bond building is there. I just think it would fit in very nicely with that area.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Until I just found out just now the possibility of that little bump out, I'm looking at it on an overhead right now. I was for moving it to the Historical Society, provided it never, ever, ever goes to the old Yost project, or property, I should say. So I would like to hear a little bit more about that bump out, though, because as Natalie said, having it there on the main drag, showing that it was a part of the major transportation of Medina back in the day, and South Court Street being a major part of our transportation today. At least I'd like to have that looked at, to see if it's even feasible. So that's where I stand right now.
I really agree with Chet about the War Bonds building. For years, everybody would ask me, why is that in front of the hospital? And now it's in a natural location. So I can see the same thing happens. I have a lot of people who ask me about the interurban station too. Why is it there? Why, was it originally there? And so I think it could probably, people could learn a lot more about it if it was ever at the Historical Society. But I'm with Paul too. I'm interested to hear. This is the first we knew about a third option too, so I don't want to dismiss that without looking into that as well. But my initial thought was it makes sense to have it be by the War Bonds building. And I would agree with Paul. I would like it to stay there and not be moved anywhere else.
And I think, my opinion would be in knowing what this third option, and I guess I always look at what is the goal of this building? What do we want to have this building be, and what do we want to achieve, with the historic nature of the building? The Historical Society provides an opportunity for people who visit the Historical Society to see these buildings all together. But the difference is those people have to visit the Historical Society. And I know there's a lot of people that do that. The other question is if we kept it on or near, I agree with Chet, not near the hotel, but if it goes down to the other location, would that provide more traffic? Because I don't know if people visiting the city or staying at the hotel are going to go to the Historical Society to see it. Would it be something where it could be combined with using it as a point of reference to highlight the Historical Society, so people see that and say, come and visit the rest of the stuff that we have, and use it that way, and not really have the hotel being in charge of it, but have either the CDC and that still be in charge of it, because it's not going to be associated with the hotel, so to speak. And I don't know if that would give it more of a focal point or not. I mean, I guess I don't know enough of how many people would visit it, but if you could use it as a tool to highlight the Historical Society, wouldn't that be better even yet? Because people walking downtown, going to the hotel, they don't know anything in the city because they're visiting, right? They may not know anything. If they could find something and they go there and say, oh, they got another place I can go see, I'm going to go down there and visit that. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's just kind of a thought I have, because my thought would be you want the most people possible to see it and to learn from it and maybe learn more from it, or it can take you to another direction instead of just saying, oh, there's a building. That's all I don't know the answer, but if you could use it to highlight the Historical Society, wouldn't that be better? I mean, I don't know.
Well, what kind of environmental damage is going to be done to it being right there on where it's at right now? If increased traffic?
Well, it's been here since the 90s.
I know.
So it's been here 30 years.
But it's still going to be, there's going to be continued, the hotel's going to bring in more traffic. Just,
But isn't it a good thing?
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know either. That's what I'm asking. I mean, you got to think this through, because if you could take advantage of that, and if we can use it for, a showcase piece for something else, I don't know. That may even be better, because now the Historical Society would have something they could tie to. But I don't know. I guess we could ask the Historical Society too what they think. But
John,
I mean, those
I don't
are
know if-
ideas that we're thinking about exactly is what to use that for. And
I don't
use
know
it
if
for.
you've been, I don't know who's been down to the Historical Society McDowell Phillips house, but if you have been, what you find out with Brian is that you get an explanation as to all that's there and what it's about and the relationships that you're not going to get anywhere else. And you only really know that if you've been through McDowell Phillips and have been around the presentation that's given. And so I would think that if finding out what that building is of interest, you would definitely get a much greater amount of explanation if it were at the CDC or the Community Development, is that what it is? Design Committee, yeah. Because you'll get a thorough explanation as to what the history is, and it's pretty rich.
No, I agree with that. And I guess the question I would have is, would it be better, and I'm just throwing this out there, if people would be able to go to the Historical Society that wouldn't even know that's there? And would that be something that would let them go there? Or would it be even simple enough that the hotel or something in the city says, hey, visit this down there if people come and visit? I don't know. I don't know if by people seeing something like that, it would spark their interest and say, boy, I'm really into this. I want to see more. I don't know. I don't know if it would be an attraction or not. I don't know.
And I remember initially when we talked about it on Liberty Street, there was some talk about it being an information about the city being handed out there. I would love to hear what the Historical Society thinks about handing out information, but on the town hill there, where you're going to have a lot of visitors. You have a lot with Castle Noel, you're going to have a lot with the new hotel.
And it is a walkable distance, I think, isn't it? I don't think it's that far. People could walk there to,
2-3
to go
blocks.
visit it. And I guess I don't know what the hours are, I mean, it all depends on a lot of different things, but I don't know. I just want to make sure that we're maximizing, the value of all that we have in Medina without trying to, lose sight of it. And I don't know if that's the way to do it or not, but I just throw it out there for people to think about it. Because I don't want to lose an opportunity if we have one that would help both, the city and the Historical Society, if we can do that.
And I have to agree with Jim and John, in the travels that Joel and I have done, we go to little burbs here and there, and we'll pick up a pamphlet someplace and say, oh yeah, let's go there, because of the information we received at another location. So this might be that place for us.
But I would
help direct
recommend
it
that
to
the
you.
Historical Society be in charge of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I don't think we should. I don't think the hotel should be, because I agree. If you leave somebody else in charge of it, you don't know what would happen to it. I think we have to protect it and preserve it, because it is something that's worth protecting and preserving. But I don't know. I'd like to hear from the Historical Society, or if anybody would like to speak on that issue, to let us know what you think.
There's an easel up here, Brian.
Yeah, I think you could probably focus on it. If you put it on there, you can focus his camera on it. Okay.
All right. I'm Michelle Nichols, and I'm the current chair of the Medina Community Design Committee. And as our board shows, we have the original letter from the Jameson family to the Community Design Committee that's dated July of 1988, when they were offering the interurban to us so that it would be preserved and protected. When we got it, it looked pretty crappy, as you can see by the picture. We have a whole envelope here of receipts for things that were done to the building, and I think we've done a pretty good job over the past 30 years in taking care of the building. We are willing to pay for the move to the Historical Society. This wasn't just a city thing, this was county-wide. And going to the Historical Society, which represents our county, I think that's the best spot for it. Busloads of kids from the schools can be brought in to the Historical Society, see the War Bond building, have the history of that, have the history of the interurban told to them. Yes, things can be put in there or put by it directing you to the Historical Society, but we already have those pamphlets. And I don't think that this little building, with the thousands of cars that go by daily, is going to get as much benefit as if we put it at the Historical Society. And they have done an outstanding job with what they've done with the War Bond building, and I can't think of a better place. And it's pretty dear to our heart. And I don't know if you know, but just a couple years ago, it was the ornament that the Main Street Medina Design Committee chose. So it's pretty special. And I hope you'll consider moving it and making it a permanent home there. And our former executive director, Roger Smalley, wrote you a very good letter explaining his thoughts on this. And Roger's the guy to go to for our history in this town.
Yes, he is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm old too, so I have to have a list. Brian Farron, representing Medina County Historical Society, and for the property at 205 South Prospect Street. Thank you, Council, for allowing us to share our thoughts. I really appreciate it. I know this has been a long discussed issue, but I want to give you some assurances too, not just the War Bond building, but our property across the street, the John Smart House, the McDowell Phillips House, the barn at the McDowell Phillips House. we have committed a great deal of time and resources to keeping these structures intact and restored so the community can enjoy them. And I just want to address a couple of points that maybe you're not aware. Number one, the property's on 24/7 camera surveillance. It goes right to my phone and several of our trustees as well, so we can constantly know who's in the lot or who's not supposed to be in the lot. We do have quite a bit of story. We talk about the interurban already. You may not be aware, but on a tour of McDowell House, we cover the interurban story, not just the transportation part of it, but maybe you're not aware, but in 1903, that interurban stopped at midnight at the depot, which is no longer there. It's next to the freight depot at Roots. It was midnight, but the worst part of it was a fire had broken out at the McDowell House around that time. This whole group of people got off the interurban, came over and helped fight the fire for 4.5 hours that night and saved the McDowell Phillips House from ruin. And so when we tour the building, or when we give tours of the building, we not only highlight the importance of the transportation, but there's a really cool anecdotal story that goes with the interurban. It went right up Medina Street, just a stone's throw from the house. Had it not been for the interurban, I'm sure we would have lost the house. In addition, the McDowell family themselves, we have just found certificates at Old Phoenix where they invested in the interurban. Okie McDowell bought quite a few shares of the interurban in 1909. So this is a very viable business historical element that I don't want to see just disappear. And I understand the traffic thing, but you're absolutely right. On Route 18, that war bond building had thousands of people zoom by it every day. Nobody had a clue what it was. Now they get a full story of what the war bond was all about and the significance in our national history. The interurban is just as important, in my opinion, and I feel we'll do an excellent job having it on the property, telling the story, bringing visitors in, and sharing all that. And just to give it another example, the county commissioners kind of faced the same dilemma. They didn't know what to do with the war bond building. But after meeting with them and assuring them that we were going to take good care of it, they transferred the deed over to us, we insured it, and we preserved it. And I believe we will do the exact same thing with the Community Design Committee in taking care of the interurban. Our other concerns with the proposed property is, the building's 12 by 12. It also has a roof pitch, makes it about 14 by 14. At the hotel site, you wouldn't even be able to get a ladder on either side of that building to do any kind of maintenance or painting or repair, much less be able to look in the sides of the windows. So from a visitor standpoint, even if they stop there to look at, they're not going to get much of a story. And I think we can do a much better job explaining the story, the history, and it's in a preserved environment. And I agree with the traffic situation that the smoke and exhaust can have a detrimental effect on any old building, as we all know. And the bottom line is, the South Court Street was never the route of the interurban. It went Medina Street to Liberty to 42 North and to Cleveland. South Court Street was selected because it was convenient and it was good at the time when the Feckley lot was built to find a good home for it. And I agree, it was prominent. I was Santa Claus in there several years as JC, so I know the building got used. But I do think now we're at the crossroads of where best to preserve our historic architecture in this town. We don't want to lose another house to demolition by neglect, and I believe that the Community Design Committee has committed not only to the move, but to the maintenance. We, in turn, will take care of it on the property. I believe we are the best choice. I thank you for your consideration and hope you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I guess, we have to make, a decision. I guess it is kind of council's decision to make a determination of what to, where to relocate it. And I don't know what type of urgency we have. I mean, I think we should think about it. I think, there's great options, and I believe that the, Historical Society and the CDC maintaining it, I think that's really the only option, right? I mean, I don't think there's any other option besides them taking care of it. I mean, I just want to make sure, I just have that little thing in the back of my mind to make sure the connectivity, because I think it's so important to, show that we're a community. That's, and I don't know, that could be totally wrong, it would never work, but I don't know. I just have to think about that a little bit more to make sure.
I believe the young lady from the hotel would like something to say.
Oh, yes.
Hi.
Hello, Lisa.
We just wanted to say that we would support any decision that council makes and would also, from the very beginning, it was somewhat assumed that it would stay there. So we wanted to help contribute to maintain and preserve and educate. So if it's your decision to move it, we support that. And we also continue to support the education of all the Historical Society's efforts.
No, thank you. Thank you for that, the input. Yeah, I don't think this is anything really controversial. I think
Yeah.
the question is, what is the best location for the use and the continued care of it and,
Yes,
and the visibility and everything like that?
We also face somewhat of a time-sensitive aspect, because if it is to maintain there, there's underground utilities we would need to plan for right now. And then if it's not, it would probably be wise to move it sooner than later with all of the construction going on in that space. And
Well, I think at least, correct me if I'm wrong on council, I don't think anybody on council, no offense to the hotel, would want it next to the hotel. I don't think anybody here would, if that was their option, wouldn't, I don't think anybody here would be okay with that. So, I mean, I don't think.
I mean, up on the, where it's currently being held right now.
Stored.
Yeah,
No,
I would
stored
just
right now.
Oh, I
encourage
got-
you to
I got
move
you.
it as
I got
quickly
you.
as possible, just to avoid.
Well, I thought you guys are very good at building things and it's not going to be dusty or anything like that. No, I guess
Of course we are.
not. Oh.
There's always a chance.
There's always a chance, yeah.
No, okay, no, I get it, and I think we'll probably have to make that determination. Yeah, I mean, there's not many options, but I think we all want what's best for the location. And, how does everybody want to proceed, I guess is the question. Jack?
Mr. President, I'd be happy to make a motion that the interurban building be moved to 205 South Prospect under the care of CDC and the Medina County Historical Society.
And I would second that.
Now, is anybody, I guess the question is, we're making a determination now, is everybody okay with the information they have? Did they have enough time to talk to people about it? I mean, that's the question I want to have.
I've received several emails, one being from, as was mentioned, from Roger Smalley.
Right.
But I've received several emails, and nothing against, I mean, there was no negativity about the hotel. It was just that they felt that the best option for the
Well, a lot of people didn't know the other option, right? Because we just found out about that tonight. That's the only thing, because I found out just talking with Jansen, I go, there is? I said, I didn't know that. So that was the only thing that was a difference.
Well, as the gentlewoman had stated, though, we'd want to make this decision sooner than later because they are going to be involved in the construction of a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to think we, want to take a chance of it getting damaged during the construction. And it is right on the construction site right now.
Sure.
If we want to consider the other option, we should vote on that now, I think, because I think she's basically telling us that she would like it removed from that site, unless it's. gonna
Kindly
be
requesting.
Kindly requesting.
Gotta be kind.
Yeah, I know, and I am.
When I think of permanent home, I do think of the Historical Society. I think that the third proposal is an idea, but I view that as something that 10 years down the road, something will happen with that parcel where the yellow house was, and we'll be talking about, is this the right place? Should we have done that?
Sure.
So I think the real permanent home would be at the museum.
Thoughts on this then?
I was going to say, can I just ask two questions? Andrew, is there anything zoning-wise that you need to have done for that move to happen over to the Historical Society?
I suppose technically we need to take it to our Historic Preservation Board, because it'd be moving a structure in the historic district to, actually, it's another historic location, but we would have to go through that process. They meet in 3 weeks, so that could get on their agenda for their next meeting. And I was also wondering if we need some kind of formal agreement for this, as it's the city's property and it's going to a different location. I don't know if we need something formal like that.
Well, it sounds like we could maybe do similar to what we did with the county commissioners, because you have a formal agreement with the county commissioners of how it ended up over.
They just deeded it over. They didn't want the liability.
Okay.
They just made a one-page document.
And I don't know if this is a CDC or Historical Society. Are you ready to go? Like, if you had the okay tonight?
Our board of trustees has approved this, yes.
Okay. How about any kind of, do you need to do any site work or anything? I mean, do you think it within 2 months?
It'll be on the parking lot, right at the corner, in the back parking lot, which is already there and installed. And that'll be where it'll most likely stay if it moves up
Hey, I'm sorry, Jared's giving me the sign. Mr. Farren, I should have had you talk into the microphone. So. Did you hear me okay? I did, yeah.
Not everybody on TV.
Nobody else
Yeah,
did.
I don't-
Yeah, Nino?
So is it the anticipation that the service department will move the interurban?
I don't know. I guess what we've heard is that the Historical Society will pay for the move, and I don't know what that means.
So a couple things, if I may. As we picked it up, put it on the trailer, it was on a foundation, a block, and we knocked out a couple of blocks and were able to, I think you were there and saw that, in an effort to pick it up. The issue at hand is the path of travel. It sits, as Mr. Farren described, it's 14 feet high, and now it's 17 plus. Our street traffic signals hang at 16.6 to clear. So there'll be some challenges, but we just need to know the path of travel, right, and work through that with the traffic signals. Imagine we'd go Smith Road west would be, rather than up the hill to the square, and navigate those traffic signals. And then if it's going to sit on a pad, we'd have to try to work that out where it'll, because of the way it was loaded and placed on the trailer, it was set up with beams that we're able to get underneath and load it that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, to answer the previous question, yes, the county issued a transfer of deed to us, 100% ownership on our property, our liability, and that was signed off by the commissioners some months ago on the war bond building. It's my understanding the Community Design Committee's already has an estimate from a house mover who's looked at the site, looked at the building, seems very confident he can get it down low enough, not on that trailer, but on a lowboy trailer of some sort, to clear the utility lines and so on, and probably go down Smith Road. Is probably the smoothest street in town. Thanks, Patrick. But it'd probably be the easiest solution to get it over there.
Okay. And I'm okay with that. We're not house movers, but we would make it work, so thank you.
Anybody else? Is everybody comfortable to voting on it tonight? I mean, I don't think anybody's objecting to have it there. I just want to make sure that we make the correct decision, because this is a long-term decision. This is not a one-year decision. This is forever. And then the question is, if we do move it, then the next question is, maybe we got to wait till we have the agreements. Are we going to deed it over? Is it going to be our property anymore? So that's the other question we got to think about. So I think if we're going to think about that, we probably should wait till the next meeting so we can get the agreements in place to make sure that we have what we need. And I would assume, since it's a structure and it's not really a fixture of anything, so it's a personal property, I don't know if it'll be like a bill of sale, or if there's something that can be attached to it, that it always has to be used for the historic purposes. Not that you guys would sell it, but if whatever is transferred, we have the right to get it back. Because it's something for the city, right? We want to make sure that we keep it. And not to say that the Historical Society, but 50 years from now, you never know who's going to be on the Historical Society. Maybe all the same people will be, but but we want to make sure that, we protect that asset as much as we can. So I think we have to go through that process too. And in any ways, we got to go through the Historic Preservation Board, it sounds like. And I don't know if there's any other committee we have to go through the city on this. I don't know if we have to do something else. I would imagine that's probably it. I don't think that the planning commission or anybody has to get involved in this decision, because I don't think they weigh in on any kind of thing that would be done, unless to make sure that it complies with another structure on the property. I don't know if it's exempt for the number of structures on the property, or if they got to get a variance, or if it's, do you know, Andrew?
I don't believe so. It's a large property, and I think what we're talking about here is a temporary location in the parking lot until they find a final location. So it sounds like it's a two-step process at the Historical
But
Society.
that permanent location is going to be on that property. Okay, it's not leaving that 1 acre or
So I just
whatever
want to
it
make
is.
sure that our zoning allows for that to happen. And I guess it's just be an outbuilding, so you're allowed to have it just has to be located in a spot that complies with our zoning code.
Yeah, it's basically a shed as far as zoning is
Right, that's
concerned.
right.
Yeah.
Not to call it a shed,
Yeah,
no
no more than
offense.
shed.
No offense.
No offense.
Andrew just is kind of giving us a visual. Okay, so why don't we do that? And why don't we,
Table
and I guess we'll table it so we get all the agreements and vote on it all at once? Does that sound like a better thing? And then they can work with the Historical Society to figure out that agreement, maybe get a copy of what the agreement was with the county. I think everybody is on the same page then. If you guys want to take care of it, great. I just want to make sure that it has a good home and it is used the best it could be used. I mean, that's the whole goal.
So John, you want me to get with Brian and try to put together the paperwork, is that?
That's correct.
Okay.
And then we still have the time that we have to do whatever we got to do with Andrew and the Historical Preservation Board to make sure that, whatever documents they need to see, or I don't know what they need to see, but we just need to make sure that we start the process.
Yeah, I think it's important too, just to note, the city did not incur any expense in acquiring the building. That original letter clearly states 50-50 ownership between the CDC and the city. And Greg, I don't know if that's something that it was written in 1988 in handwriting, but that is the official document from the Jamesons that gave this building as a gift to the city and the CDC. So it actually, seems to me, it's 50-50 ownership.
Well, it could be, it might be the quote-unquote bill of sale.
Okay?
I mean, I don't know what other formal things it needs to be. It just needs to be very clear of what the purpose was and what the intent of the grantor was, right? So it kind of sounds like it is. And if it's 50-50, then all we have to do is give them 50% of it.
I'm not an attorney, but that sounds like a solution, so.
Ma'am, I just have one question for you. So we're talking at least a month and a half before a final decision can be made?
Before the move can happen.
Before the move can happen, actually, is that okay with?
Yes, absolutely. It
Okay,
was just
thank you.
kind suggestion.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, is everybody comfortable with that? Yep. Chad, you're comfortable with that, everybody? Okay, so that's kind of what the plan is for the historical and CDC, is we're going to get the agreement together. It sounds like everybody's going to move it, but we got to follow the steps to get it moved. And hopefully it'll be no issues with moving it, and it could be a successful move, so. Okay, yes, go ahead.
Here he goes. Okay.
Yep, Skip Barron, 536 North Broadway Street. I am a member of the CDC, but I'm speaking as an individual at the moment. I guess I don't see why we can't have a vote today to move it and place it temporarily on the parking lot at the Historic Society so that it's out of the way for the hotel and it's safe. And then after you get done with all the paperwork, then it can be officially transferred or whatever you need to do. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I just don't see why we can't vote to move it and have it moved while you're doing all the paperwork.
Well, I just want to make sure that we don't miss anything in the vote, because then that would even be worse. So that's the only reason I want to make sure, because we just found out about the Historic Preservation Board being involved. We found out that we have to draft an agreement. I don't want to come back to the next meeting and say, oh, we also forgot this other thing and we got to do this other thing. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. That's mainly the reason why for the delay of the vote, is to make sure we understand and have all the documents we need to approve so we can approve them all. That's my concern.
And make sure we move it once.
So, yeah, I don't.
Yeah, we don't want to have to move it again.
Right, yeah, we don't want to move it down the street and then move it again, and we want to make the hotel happy, so we want to make sure that happens.
It's not unsafe there. I just want to make everybody aware. It's purely saved, and it would be helpful just for the 2 additional parking spots. It would free up from the surrounding businesses too.
Okay, so Mr. Huber, if you can talk to Brian, get that worked out. The next meeting, if we can get all, and just double check whatever else we need. Andrew, if that's only Historic Preservation Board, that's great, just so the next time we have all the information, then we can vote on it. And you could make the motion again, Chad. Okay.
I will.
And I do think there was a couple conditions there, Mr. Farron. I want to make sure you have time to think about that too, that we'd like it to stay on that property. If it's ever going to be used for any other purpose, the city has the first right to take it back. I mean, there was some details I wanted to make sure, just that's for us, wanted to make sure it stays where it.
Not to say that you guys won't, but you never know. 50 years from now, just like, it's been around since 1903. We hope it's around another 100 years, so I want to make sure of that. Okay? Is everybody okay? All right, let's move on, because we only have a half an hour to get to the rest of the agenda. So the next item we have is 2576 budget amendments, 2525 15 wellness funds.
This is just a pass-through.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2525 13.
These are adjustments for getting the courthouse project, but also for the Chet tells me it's the semi-quincentennial celebration.
Yes.
That's what we have appropriations for. I called it quarter millennial, but apparently the appropriate term is semi-quincentennial.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2577, increased expenditure to Waco Masonry Service Department. Nino?
Thank you, Mr. President. The original PO was produced in January of 2025 for $20,000. We used it for some trip hazards and mitigating some concrete issues up and around the square. We have several storm structures that are in driveways and sidewalks throughout the city that is our responsibility. So we use this contractor to mitigate those issues and replace the concrete where there's storm sewer repairs. Thank you.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2578, cooperative purchase Ford cab and chassis truck and dump body. Is this Nino again?
Thank you, Mr. President. It is. It's for the street department. We were running 550s for small pickup or dump trucks. We'd like to go to the Ford 600. It's the cab and chassis. It's a little bit beefier through the CUE purchasing program. It's $69,898.31. Additionally, we're asking for a Mark III utility size single axle dump body. It's to be mounted on the cab and chassis. That's separate, $70,000. The total price is $140,139.31. This is the National Purchasing Partners Program contract PS 22170 will be the purchasing mechanism for the Henderson body. And this will require 2 individual POs, one to Montrose Ford and one to Henderson Products. Thank you.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2579, professional services agreement with T&M Associates Economic Development. Kimberly?
Thank you, Mr. President. This request is to authorize the mayor to enter into a professional services agreement with T&M Associates for consulting services to implement the Ohio Department of Development Brownfield Remediation Program Assessment Grant. This is for the former Yosunoco site located at 426 West Liberty Street. The agreement has been reviewed and approved by the law director, and we are requesting the emergency clause as this grant does have a deadline of June 30th of 2025, and I did reach out to the Medina County Port Authority as they are the pass-through fiscal agent for this program, and did request an extension because once this gets approved, they'll need several months to get through all the work. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second included emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2580, a second amendment to the management agreement with Medina Municipal Airport. Greg?
The UH helicopter crew stay in a building that is rented or leased, and that rent income originally was given directly to Earl Olson when Olson Flight Services ran the airport, along with rental income from the other hangars, so that there was money to run the airport. Since that time, UH has entered into a more formalized agreement with respect to their lease. Corporately, they wanted to lease directly with the city of Medina since we actually own that property. When we met with Ron Waldron at the beginning of this year, the general intent was to get that money over to him along with aircraft hangar rental income, so he had money to run the airport. But UH, once we entered into that agreement, has been sending their check directly to the city of Medina. Through Keith, we checked with the auditors in order to correctly get the money from the city of Medina over to Ron Waldron. We have to amend this compensation section of our agreement with Coldstream, which is the name of the company now running the airport. And that is what this second amendment is about.
Should the one sentence in section 1 that talks about the management fee for a 2-month period of 23 for the year of 24 just be stricken since that's over?
I don't know, John, what do you think?
Yes. I think it's just from the carryover, and I think the next sentence talks about for any subsequent or partial years, the management agreement fee will be projected. So I think that was just a carryover from the first thing. So there's one sentence in there that starts with the management fee for the agreement combined for the full year of for the management fee for a 2-month period of 23 commencing on the date of the agreement shall be combined with the full year of 24 and terminate midnight of 24. And the management fee shall be determined on a 14-month basis for this year only. So that's already happened. So I think it's.
Why don't we get together and fix that then, so that this comes before the council with the language that you're
Yeah, just subject to
comfortable
the law director approval.
I'll make a motion then to approve this agreement subject to final changes by the law director.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2581, grant application USA Water Polo Grant, MCRC. Jansen?
Thank you, Mr. President. This request is to authorize the mayor to submit a grant application to the USA Water Polo Association. We're looking to apply for a little over $4,000 to fund the purchase of water polo goals that can be used at our competition pool, and in using the grant dollars to help develop a startup water polo team in Northeast Ohio. There is no formalized water polo in our area. So we're looking to introduce this program. We have an individual who we're in the process of hiring who just moved to Medina from Utah, who has a lot of experience in doing this and has started it up at his former town. He turned us on to this grant, so we're hopeful that we can get those funded and start an additional aquatics program.
Thank you. Questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2582, grant application T-Mobile Hometown Grant for the Parks. Jansen?
Thank you, Mr. President. This request is to authorize the mayor to submit an application to T-Mobile for their hometown grant program in the amount of $20,000. We're hoping to install, if awarded the grant, 15 park benches in 6 different parks throughout town. We have been working on the application. We already have some letters of support from residents, and we're using this to one, incentivize people to continue to stay healthy, get out, enjoy the parks, as well as we have a number of requests from seniors and many other age demographics in town who are interested in park benches along our trails, next to our park amenities. So if we're able to get this grant funding, it'll help us to accomplish that and install these.
Thank you. Question?
Jansen, will it be, once we get the grant, you can pick the benches so it's similar to what you've kind of, the standardized one you've gone to?
Yeah, the grant application that we're working on is to install the same exact benches that we have, so they'll be uniform and follow the ones that we already have as memorial benches.
Thank you. Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2583, increased expenditure for Holtz Industries, Inc. for the service department. You know?
Thank you, Mr. President. This comes from the Sanitation Department. We're requesting to increase the original PO from $20,000 to $35,000. It's a $15,000 increase. Holtz has the most competitive pricing for upper and lower packer panels, and due to numerous breakdowns, more parts are necessary to keep these trucks operational. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2584, increased expenditure for environmental equipment sales. You know?
Thank you, Mr. President. This also is from the Sanitation Department. We have an original purchase order of number 2025, number 172, for $30,000, I'm sorry, for $10,000. We're requesting a $30,000 increase. This PO will allow for a purchase of a replacement tailgate frame and tailgate-related parts for Unit 636, which is a big undertaking. It's a expensive part. It's $27,600 just for the tailgate, and then there's about $2,000 to $2,500 for freight. That's what this will allow for. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2585 bids, 2025 equipment and general pavement services. This is Nino.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is our annual asphalt, general paving and asphalt services for the 2025 year. Border Control did, however, allow us to pass a PO in order to, in an effort to pave West Friendship. We had that PO established last year, and then the contractor ran out of time. The weather turned, wasn't conducive, so we are going to do West Friendship under the old contract, which expires this June. So this will allow us to rebid that, which we assume the prices are going to be higher with everything going on. So we're fortunate enough to have West Friendship done under the 24 contract, but this will be ongoing from June through 2025 and 26. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2586, bids for job number 1151, US 42 resurfacing and pedestrian safety improvements. Patrick?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, this project we're doing in conjunction with two different grants, one from NOAC and one from ODOT. This will resurface US 42 from just north of Homestead to Lafayette, including all four sides of the square. And this will be the project where we install those pedestrian safety improvements throughout the square. The two grants total a little over $1.4 million of the $1.9 million project estimate.
Thank you. Any questions on that?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2587, preliminary legislation for ODOT urban paving State Route 3 and 57. Patrick?
Thank you. This is through ODOT's urban paving program. The next scheduled resurfacing for another section of Route 3 south of what I just mentioned and a portion of 57. ODOT will provide a little over $850,000. The city's share will be $1.4 million. This project won't happen for a couple of summers yet. This is just a preliminary legislation to get the ball rolling on project development.
And the agreement, Mr. Huber looked at, is that it's a standard agreement?
I don't know that, to be honest with you.
I don't know that either, Patrick.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve then, subject to final review with the law director.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2588, the GMP3 municipal court renovation from Rulin. As you recall, we had a meeting, was it
Last Wednesday.
last Wednesday already? It's been a week. And we discussed a lot of things. We we got the numbers, went through them. I came up with a bunch of numbers in a flurry. Lori was kind enough to go through it and gave numbers again. I think she met with Cindy, went over those numbers. I was pretty close, but a little off, like $90,000. But Cindy, I think you and the judge went through this also, and you have one question you want to ask us?
We did. Thank you very much. So we're happy to get the GMP3 passed and keep the project moving. We would request that 169 have a balance of $750,000 to keep in there for rent, security, and insurance costs, and anything that may come up once we occupy the building. Anything pub 750 is the court's promise for the initial project, for the funds for the project.
So that would mean, I just mentioned last time, remember it said it is made up $500,000 for something. I think they went through and looked at it, they want $750,000.
Right.
So all that would do is increase their share out of the 169, another $250,000 that have to be paid back through the city. So Keith, I think you could talk to Cindy or whatever and work that out to make sure that the numbers, I think we're all on the same page with the numbers that were done. I did have a conversation with the judge on that. And, at the end of the day, the total amount that's coming from the city's contribution to the projects is a little over $3.4 million out of the 301 account. And the total contribution through the judge's 169 special project fund is a little over $8 million. So that's kind of what the split would be. Now, he would have to pay that back over time, and as he mentioned, it's going to take a long time because he only had so much money, and I think you mentioned it's about $4.6 million that you'd have to pay back to city over time. Is that what you have, Cindy?
No, right now, the court has already contributed about $2.1 million.
Right.
Right now, we have a little over $3 million in the account. After the $750,000, the court's contribution would be $4.3, and then minus the $8 million from that.
Okay. So, that would be negative then.
Or negative even.
So it kind of works out, and Keith, you could work it out, make sure you get the right numbers from.
So we're taking the balance of the 169 down to $750,000.
Correct.
And then the rest is half and half?
No.
No.
Nope.
Glad I asked.
The city's share of the entire project is $3,419,093.50. That's what Lori came up with. That's the total city contribution. Everything else comes from the 169 account.
Okay.
And we already paid, I think the city paid $1.3 million already, so we already paid some of it.
Got it.
So yeah, that's all, and then you can work out whatever the payback period is. It's gonna be, And I know you spoke with Amanda, the bond counsel, to make a determination, and if we got to charge interest, we just got to know what the
So
plan would be.
that came back that we will have to charge interest, but the interest will be credited to the general fund, and there's nothing to prevent us from just giving it back.
Correct.
So that's a transfer. So that would be my recommendation, because I think we didn't want to charge interest. So we have to, for purposes of the bond anticipation notes, and then every 6 months when we charge that interest, we'll just turn in a request to transfer the exact same amount of money back to the funds that paid the interest.
And I think we're hopeful, but probably not expecting it, that the interest rates go low enough that we could borrow money, but, we have enough cash to do this internally,
Right.
so.
And it's a couple things too. It's not just the interest rates going lower, all that's a big part of it. But if we have some refinancings coming up, that as those come along, and if we have some other project we want to issue bonds for, because $8 million is borderline, but not really big enough to do a bond issue. But if we combine it in with some other stuff, we'll do one bigger issue down the road,
Sure.
if it's favorable to do so.
Sure.
Just for clarification, because I know there's been discussion of we're just going to take the court special projects all the way down and use that money first, or we're doing 50/50 as the invoices come in.
Well, we're going to reach the cap, so I guess it doesn't really matter either way. At the end of the day, we're going to have to, before this project's done, the city's going to have to pay $3,419,093.50, right? That's what we have to pay. We've already paid $1.3 million.
Right.
So we got $2.1 million left. So we can contribute any way you want to, but at the end of the day, I mean, if you feel you're more comfortable of having us contribute more at the beginning, but this next GMP 3, 7.4 million, was it? So
That's
we're
the big one.
going to have to put it in no matter what.
Right.
Immediately.
It's just easier because the judge has to do an AO for any invoices that come in, so it's just
Whatever, Keith,
clarification.
whatever's easier for you. If you want to contribute everything that I just mentioned on the city side right away, then you just have to go to the court. If that's easier, just do that.
They'll work it out.
You work it out.
Okay, we'll work it out.
Okay. All right, anybody have any questions on that?
No.
So my motion will include the emergency clause?
Yes.
And my second includes emergency clause.
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2589, amend codes, stormwater ordinances. Who's this? Patrick?
Thank you. I think council's aware, we are required by the EPA, as most communities in the state are, to get a stormwater permit through them. It's a 5-year permit. We had our program audited last summer, and a couple things came back deficient. One of which was our ordinances were not up to date, 3 of them in particular: comprehensive stormwater management, erosion sediment control, and illicit discharge and illegal connection control. So we went about, we did hire a consultant to help us put these ordinances together. These pretty much mimic what the city of Brunswick has in place, several other local communities have in place. Be happy to go over those in more detail if you like. The one thing I did want to mention, in Brunswick's ordinance, it gives the city engineer full control to decide what the fees are. I didn't think that was going to fly here. So I did put in some suggested values, their lump sum fees, and the fees, we're going to have to hire a consultant to help us regularly with some inspections, the erosion controls and sediment control inspections. Our idea is that these fees would just offset the cost of that. So we'll monitor it, and time to time we might have an adjustment, but for now, we're recommending those lump sum fees.
And I guess the question is, I know the consulting firm put together the ordinances and their compliance with state law. I would imagine that's why we have to do it. Mr. Huber, do you got to get involved in that at all?
Well, administratively, the department's heads have to go to Pat for his slush fund every now and then, and so we're all in favor of whatever you do to fund that.
And I did present them to Greg. There is some penalty sections. I want to make sure he was good with the procedures that they have outlined there.
Well, yeah, we'll make sure we make it subject to, just so we can take one other look at it. The initial fees, I don't know if anybody has any questions about the initial fees. I guess
I have a couple of questions.
Oh, we got
So
one.
whenever you're ready.
Go ahead, you're up.
Okay, all right, thank you. First of all, as I read this, are these ordinances, they based on Ohio Revised Code or some unelected bureaucrat?
These were based on a template ordinances put together by a group called the Chagrin River Watershed, something like that. And it's my belief that most communities, at least in Northeast Ohio, have followed that template, modified them as necessary. But the EPA has audited and approved these for use, and this
Okay,
would satisfy
is there
them.
a basis in Ohio Revised Code for these? Is there something that the legislature passed and said, this is the law?
That I couldn't answer. I don't know
Okay,
that.
then maybe we should wait until we find that out. Mr. Huber?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Let's wait until we find out if
We'll hold
this
it
is
to the-
based in
We'll hold it
law.
to the next meeting, but my guess is that these are in here for guidance, and does it help us get grants too? Is that why some of this, we do this?
Yeah, right now, we did get a notice of violation from the EPA as a result of our audit. One of our goals was to pass ordinances that would satisfy them. That's why we've submitted it here. If we don't pass ordinances, I think there's retribution in terms of, grants that we might not be eligible for. I don't know what other penalties might come in effect.
Okay, and then are these, or these recommendations that you have in here, are they for the, like if I want to add, put on an addition to my house, that's going to add more impervious surface. Do I have to follow these things? Do I have to come in and pay the $250 or whatever permit fee?
You would have to get a permit fee, and we do that now. We've done that
But that's
forever.
for the building. I'm talking about for this.
No, for site grading, we do charge fees now. This increases it by, right now it's 150, it increases it to 250 for a residential permit.
And where's that money go?
I think it goes back to the general fund.
Okay, so we keep it. The city keeps it.
We keep that, yeah.
It doesn't go to the state or
No.
the EPA or anybody
no,
like
no.
that? Okay. So then I guess then if somebody wants to increase their driveway or something like that on a private property.
And no, there's, for
private
smaller
residence.
projects like that, the engineer has discretion whether to require it or not. There are certain thresholds in terms of square footage of disturbance where you have to get a permit. Below those thresholds, it would be the engineer's discretion.
So that's
Okay.
Patrick.
Okay.
So-
I love the way they threaten you with
Well, I think
stuff
that's
and then
in,
they don't pass
Paul,
a
I
law.
think that's in line with what we're kind of doing now and have been doing. Isn't that right, Pat?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
the origins are from way back. And I spent 24 years in the steel mill putting up with stuff.
Right.
Okay? And they really, really, really irked me because most of these people couldn't get a real job in a real place. And that's why they do this.
Yeah.
Well, we want to make sure we get the grants. I think that's important. And plus.
Extortion.
If we continue to provide this guidance, I guess gives people more of a roadmap of how to achieve the goals that.
Right, and they're pretty standard practices. As Greg mentions, we do it now, just hasn't been codified, so to speak. The big thing, the illegal discharge and illegal connection, they were concerned, we don't have any mechanism. If somebody, for instance, would tie their sanitary sewer into a storm sewer, there's no penalty. We can kind of go after them and harass them, but we have no teeth in the law. So that was one of their big objectives.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to move forward with it, subject to final review of the law director.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. 2590, grant application fiscal year 26 State Road Phase 2 reconstruction. Patrick? Or Nino? Who is it? Kimberly?
I can take this one and the next one. These are requests to authorize the mayor to submit for fiscal year 26 community projects, grant applications. This is to Congressman Max Miller's office. One is for State Road reconstruction. It's Phase 2 of the project, which would be the section between Progress Drive South and to Birch Hill, a little over 1,300 feet for that section. Included in the cost is the right-of-way construction and engineering. Total project is estimated a little over $2.6 million, with the local match portion of $772,400. State Road is a NOACA functional class, or on their functional classification map, so therefore it is eligible funds. So this one and the next one, which is an airport project, The other one is for Medina Municipal Airport Entrance Access Road and Apron. And this grant would be to include plan, specs, and construction. The project is listed on the Master Airport Layout Plan, or what we call the Airport Improvement Plan, which is filed with the FAA, which makes that project eligible for grant funding. So the cost of that project is estimated at $2,680,000, and the local match, which would be the city match, is $134,000. So both of these grants, I did contact his office just to find out where the funding is actually coming from. So this is funding that has already been authorized, but not yet appropriated. So we can submit these projects. We do have to pick a priority 1 and a priority 2, and then their office will review all the projects from the district, and then they'll submit a total of 15. So their focus is really on things that are either safety-related, infrastructure-related, airport-related. And we are asking the emergency clause. We just found out about these opportunities. So it's a really quick turnaround time on these applications. We have to have them into his office by April 18th.
Okay. So the first one, anybody have any questions on
No.
State Road?
All right, I'll make a motion for 25090 for, with the emergency clause.
Second, including emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And 2591.
And for the second one, then I'll make the motion, and again, including the emergency clause.
Second, including emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, 2592, amend salaries and benefit 3104B, extend 4-week training period for the civil service. Lori?
Thank you for having me. The Civil Service Commission is requesting council to consider extending the 4-week training period allowed under Section 3104 of the Salaries and Benefits Code to allow additional training for the incoming Civil Service Secretary, Kimberly Leitner, increasing it to 7 weeks. When talking to Law Director Huber, he suggested maybe making it more generalized in the pay code to give the mayor authority to extend training periods for new hires up to 12 weeks.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit, and I did speak with Kathy Patton about it. And the 12 weeks is fine for the discretion, and then we talked about, it used to be set up at a step of 13A, but then we asked the question, well, we just changed the code or ordinances in Medina to say we can bring people in at different steps. So the question is, do you want to put them down to 13A if they're at a different step, or do you want to be able to bring them in at the step they're at during training also? And it seemed logical that if they're training and learning the job, they'd be paid the same way would be paid when they're in the job. So I wouldn't keep the 13A step in there. And Kathy, we modified that, correct? So that's been modified where it's up to 12 weeks at the discretion of the mayor and the department head to make a determination of how much time they need for the training, and it's at their step, whatever you bring them in at. Because we have a floating scale now that sometimes we have to bring people in at different steps to get them, entice them to come to Medina, or any community has to do that, so.
And Lorraine, do you have to stay here for as long as that extended period is?
Most of it.
Well, then, I think we should extend it for like 2 or 3 more years.
Oh, year.
Mr. Coyne, I just want to make sure I heard you right. They will be brought in if the job is step 13, as this example is, that's what they'll be brought in at.
Correct.
Okay, all right, I want to make sure I
If
understood
it's a
you right. Okay.
13C, they'll be
Whatever it is,
decided,
yeah.
they'll be paid at a 13C.
Okay.
But again, that's up to the department head and the mayor's approval of what they get paid, but it's not going to be automatically 13A.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Okay?
Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second, including emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have one more to be added, so don't get nervous here. Nino
you.
brought one in. This is 25093. This is a sodium chloride rock salt purchase agreement. Nino?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks for adding the request on tonight's agenda. So we received the annual ODOT bid for salt like a few days ago, and it's due May 2nd, so we're requesting an emergency clause. Again, every year it's the same thing. They want us to determine today what salt we're going to use next winter season, so we're looking at 1,900 tons just to be to have a safe number, so appreciate you considering that.
Questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second, including emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Anything else to come before finance? That was a nice, long meeting.
Yeah.
All right, well, adjourn. We have 4 minutes before council.